Let's talk about sex. Biological sex. Now, I know my presentation title is a little bit of clickbait, but I like to think that Salt and Peppa would enjoy this presentation. If we want to talk about biological sex, we have to ask the question, what is it? Well, the major way scientists understand biological sex is through binary theory. The binary theory of sex states that we can divide biological sex into two categories, male and female, each with their own unique physical characteristics. So someone who is female would have a vagina, XX chromosomes, and high circulating estrogen. The law of binary theory says because there are only two types of biological sex, there can only be two genders. Gender within the context of binary theory is your cultural identity as a man or a woman. And you express your gender through behaviors. So for example, someone might choose to express that they are a woman by wearing a dress, using she, her pronouns, or putting on makeup. Now, understanding biological sex and the binary theory of sex is important because it comes along discussing gender pronouns and pronoun usage. For example, some people identify as neither a man nor a woman, they're non-binary, and so they request the use of alternative pronouns such as the singular they, them. Unfortunately, often these requests are refused. Take a look at this tweet from conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Charlie writes that today is #Pronouns Day. Here's an exhaustive list of pronouns backed by science. He, him, his, and she, hers, her. Charlie's tweet clearly uses the logic of binary theory. Two biological sexes, two genders, two sets of pronouns. He even mentioned science. Now, I'm a psychology student, so I love science, and we can evaluate Charlie's claims using the scientific method. The scientific method uses two types of reasoning. The first is deductive reasoning, where we use a general scientific theory to come up with a specific prediction. That prediction we can then verify using empirical observations. The second type of reasoning is inductive reasoning, where you use a specific observation to come up with a general scientific theory. Inductive reasoning is also how we modify scientific theories to accommodate for new information. So this is us, right? We want to evaluate the binary theory of sex and Charlie's tweet. So, using deductive reasoning, we can come up with a specific prediction and then evaluate that prediction using empirical observations. So, based on the binary theory of sex, which says you can be male or female, we would expect people to have either wholly male or wholly female sex traits. So if you have XX chromosomes, you must also have high circulating estrogen and female genitals. We can then test we can test this prediction by looking at the results of sex verification tests in a population that has to undergo sex verification tests regularly. So Olympic athletes have to undergo sex verification tests really regularly. The women have to submit samples of DNA to verify that they're biologically female, which makes them a good population for us to look at. So what do we find? What are our observations? For the most part, binary theory works pretty well. If you have X chromosomes, you usually also have a vagina and high circulating estrogen. However, there are some exceptions to this model. Consider the Olympic hurdler Maria Patino. Maria lived her entire life as a woman, and she has female genitals, but she also has male XY chromosomes. In addition, she has high circulating estrogen as well as high circulating testosterone. How is this possible? Well, Maria was born with androgen insensitivity, which means that her body produces testosterone, but her cells don't respond to the testosterone. They respond to the circulating estrogen, which caused her to develop female sex traits. Due to her androgen insensitivity, Maria can't neatly be categorized into male and female like we'd expect using the binary theory. And Maria isn't even the only exception. Androgen insensitivity affects 1 in every 13,000 people, and it's only one smaller subcategory of a larger group known as intersex. Intersex meaning people who have both male and female sex characteristics. So we have our specific observation that some people, like Maria Patino, have both male and female sex traits. Using inductive reasoning, we can then modify our understanding of binary sex to accommodate this new information. The way that we could modify our understanding would be to think about biological sex as a continuum. As you can see from my little graph here, if we think about biological sex as a continuum instead of as two discrete categories, it still accommodates the observation we see where most people have either wholly male or wholly female sex traits. So we keep this bimodal distribution, but it also accounts for the fact that some people have a mix of both. So this purple area in the graph, it's less common, but you can see this model would still account for the presence of intersex. What does this new understanding of biological sex mean for our understanding of gender? Well, if you remember binary theory and good old Charlie's tweet says that because we have two sexes, we can only have two genders. But we've just seen that it's not even as easy to categorize biological sex into two discrete categories. If we can't even divide biological sex, which we can measure empirically, into two discrete categories, why should we try and force people's complex cultural identities, their genders, into the labels of man and woman? Why should we not be respectful of a variety of gender identities, regardless of that person's sex chromosomes? That brings me to my final point. Remember Charlie's tweet? His tweet implies that he wouldn't use alternative pronouns, such as the singular they, them, for a non-binary person, because according to the scientific theory that he uses to understand sex and gender, he uses the binary theory of sex, and according to that theory, there's no such thing as a non-binary person. But what this argument misses is the limitations that we've just seen with the binary theory of sex. Another important thing is that there's a very big difference between using a scientific theory to understand the world and using a scientific theory to justify treating people poorly. Is the binary theory of gender accurate? That's a descriptive question that we can answer using the scientific method. Should I use someone's preferred pronouns, even if those pronouns are something other than he or she? That's fundamentally an ethical question. And because it's an ethical question, I can't tell you what to do. Your decision depends on your values and your beliefs. I can only tell you really what my opinion is. And I believe people should treat each other with dignity and respect. But should you use alternative pronouns? Yes, you absolutely should. Thank you.